Welcome to the APs on Football with Rob Maaddi. I'm excited to kick off a new season of this show, a new NFL season, of course. We have awesome segments coming up featuring two fantastic guests. First, I'll take you inside the huddle with Philadelphia Eagles star running back Saquon Barkley. We'll go around the league in a 2-minute drill, look at a few teams over-unders in pro picks. I'm not ready to pick any of the preseason or exhibition games. ESPN's Field Yates is going to join me for Fantasy Focus, and I'll discuss Baker Mayfield's contract situation with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the final word. Saquon Barkley ran for 2,500 yards plus in 2024. He set an NFL record for the most yards rushing in a regular season and postseason combined. He helped the Eagles win the Super Bowl, and it was on his birthday that they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. He followed up with 1,100 yards rushing last season. He will be our first Inside the Huddle guest of the new season. Saquon, great to have you on the show this week, and I appreciate your time, man. You couldn't have written a better script for your first season in Philly. So, as you know, I grew up in Philly. I covered the team for 21 years. I know the fan base inside and out. I also know that there's a negative perception of the fans from the outside. What was it like for you to go from playing for the Giants, being the enemy, to being beloved by that fan base?
Yeah, for me, from going to obviously playing against the Eagles for a majority of my career to being on the Eagles and, getting to know the fan base from two different sides, I will say it's definitely a little more fun when you're on their side versus not. But I feel like I kind of always had like a secret love from the Eagles fan base because a lot of them are Penn Staters. So when I came to Philly, obviously I was a big name and it was a big signing, but I got a lot of response that, yes, finally I can like this guy again. So I think there was always a little bit of secret love from me being in Lehigh Valley and a PA guy. I got a lot of love going to Philly. So it's been pretty fun for my career to be able to play for two great fan bases. And Philly fan base is out of this world, and to be able to bring a championship and, be able to create so many memories in such a short time has been pretty cool. But I do know the standard here is high, and that's how I hold myself. So the goal is to try to bring another one. I don't want to be remembered just for rushing for 2,000 yards and helping bring a Super Bowl. I want to be someone that was able to bring multiple Super Bowls here, and that's a goal, and that's why I'm training so hard right now.
About that standard, Saquon, because you can win 12, 13 games in any city, and a lot of fans are going to be happy with that. In Philly, you win 12, 13 games. Yeah, that's great, but it's all about the Lombardi, all about the parade. For some guys, that can be extra pressure. How do you feel about that? It sounds like to me that you embrace that.
Yeah, I embrace it. I don't think pressure is a real thing from the outside force. You have to hold yourself to a high standard. I know Philly holds us to a high standard already, but I feel like the way I carry myself and how I train and the standard I hold myself, I fit right into the city and into this fan base. But yeah, I also at the same time too, you want to win every year. That's the goal. Every team. I know some people think it's, we're just trying to get picks, but as a player, every year you go into it, you have the mindset of trying to win the Super Bowl. Now the reality is there's only probably 6 to 8 teams that actually have a shot, and Howie and Nick, they do such a really good job of making sure pretty much every year that I've been going against the Eagles and I've been on the Eagles that you have a legitimate chance to win a Super Bowl. So you rather be like that than not, and it's the truth. You rather have that fan base and have that standard than not be a part of a culture that's expecting you to win. And you just got to take the punches and roll with it and know that, maybe a double-digit win in NFC East championship is not enough. But at the same time, you got to be realistic as players and know that, we fell short of the goal, but also you still could build off that. And you got to learn from that. You'll be a fool not to learn from that. And that's what we're trying our best to do. And I'm excited to get into camp and try to prepare for another run at it. And that starts by focusing on week by week. And right now it's dominating the offseason and then coming to camp ready and conditioned.
Speaking of Nick, I was there the day he was hired, and I remember his first news conference, and afterwards people were like, oh, why is this guy got the job? I defended him on air, and I feel good about that because he's proved me right. All he's done is win. Top 5 winning percentage all time, Saquon, NFL history, Nick Sirianni, Super Bowl championship. Yet we just did a top 5 coaches in the NFL right now, the AP, and he didn't even come in the top 5. Why do you think Nick doesn't get the respect, like, nationally, and even in Philly? Why doesn't he get the respect that he deserves?
The same reason why Jalen don't get the respect he deserves. Same reason why when I rush for 2,000 yards, it may be looked at not as good as other 2,000 yards. It's just how it works when you're in Philly, because Nick and Howie and all of them, they do a really good job of creating a great culture and a winning culture, and having great teams. And Nick would be the first one to tell you, you know what makes a really good coach. I remember asking this. I was like, I've gone against you for so many years, and like, what do you think makes you a great coach? Like, I know you're a great coach. I want to hear why. And one of the first things he said, he was like, what makes great coaches? Great teams and great players. And what makes a great running back? A great offensive line. What makes a great quarterback? A great offensive line, a great team, and a great offensive coordinator. Like, all those things matter. And, it's, they change the narrative when it comes to winning, I guess you can say. And we know what it takes to win. And it takes a team. So the reason why I'm spoken so high as a great running back, because I have a great team. It's not like I was in New York and I was some trash player. Some people might have say that, like the media can make that up. I'm starting to, you learn when you get in the NFL that like they just say whatever they want, but just because it's a narrative that's created out there doesn't mean it's the truth. And the narrative that's out there about Nick is so far from the truth. And I was able to talk about that. It was one of my favorite articles I was able to, go out and speak for. I love speaking for my coaches. I love speaking for my teammates. But to be able to talk about it, it's like, yeah, like, you're a fool if he's having a Hall of Fame career. And the fact that he's not ranked up there in the top 5 is kind of crazy. But at the end of the day, like I said, back to the culture that's created with the fan base here, you'd rather have it that way. I'd rather have a coach that it's not well liked or not viewed at a top 5, but we're still winning football games and we're competing for championships every year.
One of the things he says that I borrow as a flag football coach is good teams have good players, great teams have great teammates. I've seen you be as unselfish as can be. You passed up on getting the record. You've told Nick, hey, you guys let other guys get some carries. Where did you get that unselfish attitude instilled in you? Was that something growing up? How did that come about?
I think you study the game. One of the things that Michael Jackson quote, study the greats and become greater. You don't just study them in a sense of the great things that they do on the football field. I remember when I was a kid, NFL Films, they used to do a breakdown of the top 10 backs. And I forgot the voice behind it. I actually don't know who the voice is. I got to find that out. But I would never forget, it was a Barry Sanders clip. And they were talking about how great of a player he was, but they had a clip of him holding Gatorade cups and he's walking down. Now it's hard to do that because we have trainers, we have all this, like the resources you have in NFL is probably a lot better than when Bear is playing, but you see him holding Gatorade cups and he's going to his teammates and just the way that he carried himself. So I would say I have to give my flowers to him there. And then just how my parents raised me. It's everything, who I am as a person, it stems from my family, my brothers and sisters, and the coaches that I had growing up. But I don't think you should get flowers for being a great teammate. I don't think anything that I've done or that I said is, rare. At least it shouldn't be rare. It should be the norm, and it is the norm. And, I might have just got caught on camera, or I might have had an article written about me, but there's other stuff that I've done that's behind the scenes, and I have multiple teammates that have done great things for me too. And it's a winning culture. You want to create that culture. If you want to win football games, you want to be competing for championships, that matters. And I bought into that at a very young age, and I think that's what, I guess you could say, separated me.
Saquon, one of my biggest frustrations when I go to watch games, and some days if I'm not at a game, I want to watch them all at the same time, I want to flip back and forth. And no matter how much technology has improved, it's become a little bit more difficult for me to find this game, find that game. You've partnered with DirecTV to kind of make that easier. Tell me about your partnership and what you're doing with them to enhance the game watching experience.
Yeah, for me, growing up, that's how we got to watch ball. I remember when we first came into the NFL, we were able to get a subscription with DirecTV, and you'll be able to watch all the games. As I got older, you have kids. Your bye weeks is not as much as sitting down watching football, but I remember that's exactly how I used to do it, and you'll be able to go and get all access to all the games, and it's been pretty cool. It's been pretty cool for to partner with DirecTV and the shoot we were able to have, and just, be able to meet everybody there. And I'm all about like the team thing and like, the kind of culture that they have. And, the day I was able to spend with them, I was knocked away. And I'm just thankful for the opportunity. And, it's been a pretty cool ride, and all the brands I've been able to work with. And now to be able to say that I'm partnering up with DirecTV, it means a lot to me.
Are you going to be in some commercials with DirecTV? Is there some?
Yeah, we got a pretty cool one coming out.
Okay.
The team that they hired, it's shout out to I guess it's your stunt double, I guess you can say. DirecTV did a really good job of making it easy on me, but it was pretty cool, and I think it's going to be a shoot that people enjoy. One of my favorite ones. I've been able to do a lot, which is a blessing, and it's one of my favorite ones I was able to do.
Let's go around the league in under 2 minutes. Deebo Samuel went back to San Francisco. I think that's a great move for the 49ers. It gives that offense another playmaker. Ricky Pearsall went down. They've got Deebo now. Mike Evans, of course, they signed him from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in free agency. Christian McCaffrey coming off an all-world season. George Kittle is coming back, trying to come back from an Achilles. If all of those guys can stay healthy, Brock Purdy is going to have a ton of options. And of course, they need head coach Kyle Shanahan to stay healthy. That was a very scary situation. In New York, well, actually in North Jersey, John Harbaugh took some heat for his speech to the New York Giants. The New York Giants on the first day of camp. But here's the deal. Harbaugh he's not only one of the best coaches, one of the best leaders of men, he's an excellent communicator who's been doing this for 18 plus years and many more even before that as an assistant coach. He's taught me a few lessons that I've been able to incorporate as a flag football coach for girls. So I think people took that way out of proportion. What's training camp without some quarterback competition? I don't really think the competition is all that intense or fierce. There's a few battles. Really, the one that I think is most intriguing is Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland. I'm going to get a chance to check out the Browns when I go to Canton for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. I'd be really surprised if Kyler Murray doesn't win that job. I think it's going to be an uphill battle for J.J. McCarthy. Over in Atlanta, Tua Tagovailoa's got a little bit of a back issue, but Michael Penix is still recovering from his knee injury, so it's going to be Tua's job. And over in Vegas, how long can Kirk Cousins hold off Fernando Mendoza? That's the big question. Maybe half the season, maybe more. Well, I'm not going to predict preseason games, as I said earlier, for you in Pro Picks. So let's take a look at a couple over-unders. The Jacksonville Jaguars are at 8.5. They won 13 games last season. The disrespect for the Jaguars continues. Liam Cohn is one of the best young head coaches in the NFL. He's a great motivator. I heard him say how nobody talks about the Jaguars, and they do fly under the radar. They are underrated. They are overlooked. Trevor Lawrence came on at the end of last season, and I think he's got the perfect coach in Liam Cohn to get the most out of him. I'm going to take the Jaguars at over 8.5 for my season totals. The Baltimore Ravens, they're at 11.5. Think about that. They're at 11.5 coming off a season where they didn't make the playoffs. They fired John Harbaugh. They got a first-year head coach in Jesse Minter. Lamar Jackson's coming off a year where he missed 4 games. They've got some young receivers. They've lost their starting center. Derrick Henry is 32 years old. I don't know. Is this the year he finally slows down? I wouldn't bet on that. I think Derrick Henry's going to continue doing what he does. Baltimore's got some big-time playmakers on defense. They added Trey Hendrickson, but getting to 12 wins, that's tough. In that division, I think it's a tougher division. The AFC North, I'll take them winning 11 games, which gets you under 11.5. It's time for Fantasy Focus, which is a new weekly segment on AP's On Football. Our first guest is ESPN Fantasy Football and NFL Draft Analyst Field Yates. Field, it is great to have you on the show, man. Thank you. Appreciate your time. I've been playing fantasy for so long, I can remember the first draft I prepared for, and I was scouting a young second-year quarterback that was just acquired by Green Bay from the Atlanta Falcons, Brett Favre. It's been
How
like
about that?
yeah, man, 30 plus. And that was before like the mock draft simulators and all this stuff. Like you're charting names and you're writing all that. And in all those years, I've only won 2 championships. So
Yeah.
have you had better success than I have over the years?
Thankfully, more than 2, Rob. It's great to be on, by the way. But I remind people all the time that just because of what I do as a fantasy analyst, it does not mean that I've got some 95% chance to win the league. I remind people often that there's also a lot of luck involved in fantasy football. There are 22 moving variables on every play, and Josh Allen may seem like he's money in the bank every week. And then he plays the Houston Texans and he has multiple turnovers. And all of a sudden, the one thing you count on in your lineup, you can't count on. So you're hoping for a blend of good strategy and also good fortune. But fantasy football can be a cruel beast. I think the first player that I recall, and it may not have been the first I ever drafted, but amongst the first players I ever drafted was Steve Smith, as in the longtime Carolina Panthers star, who must have been somewhere in the early, probably mid 2000s when Steve entered the league, if I had to guess offhand. So I'm at like 20 plus years of playing fantasy football that I can remember myself.
Going into it, and everybody's preparing for their drafts now, and it's that season, and they're getting ready. When you look at the running backs, is it Jahmyr Gibbs? Is it Bijan Robinson? Who's number 1 for you? Where do you slot Christian McCaffrey in there? Can you count on him after all those touches last year?
Yeah, I land on Bijan with the narrowest of margin ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. And really, Rob, I tell people that I'm not wasting too much energy on debating between these two. It's sort of 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. I would say 2 of the 3 most talented running backs in the NFL. Both play behind capable offensive lines. Atlanta has not been held back by their offensive line. It's been, for many years, or for many stretches in recent years, a porous defense or inconsistent quarterback play that's kept them from reaching greater heights. And in Detroit, it's a reshaped offensive line. David Montgomery is no longer there. He's in Houston. Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson catch a zillion passes a year. Both of them, to me, are worthy number 1 overall picks. I give the slightest of edges to Bijan because I give the slightest of edges to him as an overall player. You know, to borrow a Madden rating, we're talking about a 99 versus a 98. Christian McCaffrey deserves to be in that conversation. He was the best player on a points per game basis last year. The reason why he's number 3 for me, and I know every NFL player is an injury risk on every snap, but Christian McCaffrey being an older player with a longer injury list than either Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs has him number 3 behind those 2 guys, but very much in that conversation as well.
I'm sure you've seen some of his off-season workouts, man. I love seeing something like he is determined. Like CMC is determined to get a gold jacket one day, and I think he can stay healthy, string a few more years together. He could certainly be in that conversation. Wide receivers is a tough one if you're trying to pick one. Like I would almost rather have a later first-round pick, so I don't have to make some of these difficult choices. You know, you got JSN, Jamar, Puka. Who's your number 1? Is it someone out of those top 3?
Yeah, those 3 represent a tier. And I tend to look at these rankings as tiers, which is that, you know, like you do have to rank somebody first, second, and third amongst Puka, Jamar Chase, and JSN. That's how I have them ranked, by the way. Puka 1, Chase 2, JSN 3. But sort of the conversation we were having with Jahmyr Gibbs versus Bijan Robinson, you're really choosing very comparable entities. And the way that which you win your fantasy league, I don't believe, is choosing right between Jamar Chase and Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's choosing right in the 5th and 10th and 13th round and playing the waiver wire effectively. The reason why I land, though, on Puka is number 1. It's just the greatest track record of saturation of targets. And the Rams this offseason, it sounded like they were maybe at one point sniffing around on an A.J. Brown trade, but with no A.J. Brown trade, it is going to be the Puka Nacua show once again. Yes, Devontae Adams will catch plenty of touchdowns like he did last year, but Puka is the best bet of any player in the NFL on any given Sunday or Monday, or now Wednesday, or Thursday, or even Friday, like the Rams in their first game down in Australia against the Niners, to see 10 targets. And ultimately, I'm chasing volume in an offense that was not built around specifically Puka Nacua, but Sean McVay does as good of a job as any coach in the NFL of fitting his players' top strengths into what they do offensively.
I'm going to stay home in Tampa for the final word. You got to appreciate Baker Mayfield. Baker just speaking his mind, not holding back on his disappointment that he didn't get that long-term deal from the Buccaneers. He said they offered $2 million. It was supposedly more than $50 million per season, but as a franchise quarterback, you're looking at 4 or 5 years. So he feels disrespected, as he said in his words. He feels undervalued. Baker loves Tampa Bay. He revived his career in the city. They embraced him. The fan base rallied around him. They love Baker. They love him in the locker room. He says it's a great place where he wants to raise his kids. I'm biased, but I'm raising my kids here. I don't blame him. It's an awesome place to live. Wouldn't want to be anywhere else. He took some shots at the organization. He says that he doesn't plan to negotiate now that the season has started. I wonder if his agent comes to the Buccaneers go to his agent, whatever, with the deal that he wants. Maybe they do, but I can understand the other side of this. Here's a team. You've got a head coach in Todd Bowles he's on the hot seat. They haven't won deep into the playoffs, one playoff game with Baker. They still need pieces around him, and they could potentially be looking at a rebuild if things go sour this season. So they're a little hesitant to go 5 years, $250 million, 260, 275, whatever it is. I think there's going to be drama around this one for a while. That's it for this week. Thank you to Saquon Barkley. Thank you to Field Yates. And thank you for watching and listening to the APs on Football with Rob Maaddi. Make sure you download it on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.